Well, the governor is not answering basic questions about the data that she's using to assess how we're doing during the coronavirus pandemic. And that's what State Auditor Rob Sand is saying tonight is happening. He joins us tonight to explain what he wants to see in Auditor Sand. First of all, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Tell us first about this letter that you sent to Governor Kim Reynolds last week. What specifically are you asking for?
I have a list of 12 questions in there. These are very basic questions about the assessment tool the governor is using in order to decide what orders should be issued. And if this tool is something that was well thought out and based on good data and logic, then those answers to those questions would have already existed because they would have thought about them before they put the tool into use.
Okay. Is there, do you think, confusion in the mind of most Iowans about, they see the numbers that she puts out. She's talking about specific categories that they're measuring, but do you think Iowans understand how they're getting to the numbers that they're expressing to the public?
Well, I think that's part of the issue here. I think there is some confusion among Iowans about what we should be doing and how we should be doing it. The answer to that, generally speaking, is staying home. But at the end of the day, we have got to make sure that life or death decisions are made based on good data. We had an audit that our office issued earlier this year of DHS. We wanted to collect data regarding home health, and we gave DHS multiple opportunities to provide it. At the end of the day, every time they failed to provide reliable data. Rather than going ahead and working with that data, we actually announced that the data wasn't reliable and that we couldn't audit it. You can't act on bad data. You shouldn't act on the wrong data. And I think it's a very reasonable question for every Iowan to want to know how they decided to use the specific tool that they are using and what data is underneath it.
The governor seems to be addressing it every day at her daily news conference, but maybe not to the degree that some are looking for. She talked about it today again in her news conference, giving some more information about the regions of the state that her team is looking at. What did you make of her explanation?
I watched the governor's press conference today. Every time I see more data get used, I am happy with it. But at the end of the day, still it comes down to all of these different factors that are being left out of this assessment tool. It has only 4 components to it. Every one of those components has only 3 different levels that it can be set at. Why did they pick those 4? Where did they decide to draw the line for those 3 levels? These are really basic questions that, again, are life and death matters, and Iowans should be able to get answers to those questions.
In your opinion, does Iowa need a shelter in place put over the whole state, or do you think if enacted correctly and managed correctly, the governor's system of the mitigation, incremental mitigation, could possibly work?
Well, again, I go back to the question and the answer of data. But let me be more specific, right? Because it's not enough to simply say you're using data. Unicast is a company that has put together a social distancing scorecard for every state. They change it every day. Every time that I look, Iowa has had an F or a D. That's not good enough.
All right. Last question real quickly. Has she responded to you from your letter last week, and do you expect a response?
We had written originally on Thursday. We then followed it up on Saturday and gave yesterday, Monday noon, as a deadline. The fact that we hadn't gotten a response is, I think, why you and I are here talking today. It's certainly why we released the letter.
Iowa State Auditor Rob Sand, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.